Are you ready for another adventure? Today we will travel back to the past and find out what happened to the original owners of the gorgeous Carmore Abbey and what happened to their large estate. The story of this landmark in Connemara, County Galway, Ireland, and how it went from a castle to an abbey is an amazing tale of eternal love, tragedy, and destiny. Join me as I tell you about how one man transformed a huge piece of land in a poor region into a productive estate that has lasted over 150 years and will probably last 150 more. Mitchell Henry was an English businessman, politician, and philanthropist born in 1826, in England. He became a doctor in 1851. However, his true passion was politics and business. In 1849, Mitchell married Margaret Vaughan in the parish church of St. Peter's in Dublin. Together they went on a honeymoon to the Connemara region of Ireland. This is when he fell in love with the landscape, and in 1867, as a romantic gesture to Margaret, he purchased the lands where he would build the Carmore Castle estate. The area was known for its beauty, lakes, and landscapes. Mitchell had a big vision for Carmore Castle, inspired by the Gothic Revival style and medieval castles he had admired during his travels. He spared no expense in building the estate with lavish interiors, large gardens, and breathtaking views of the Connemara landscape. Mitchell and Margaret were the very definition of fairy tale romance. They married young and their love filled the castle. That is why Mitchell was left devastated in 1874 when Margaret died of a fever when in Egypt. He poured his grief into the development of Carmore Castle, transforming it into a lasting tribute to their eternal love. Mitchell was clearly heartbroken. He would dedicate his time to the estate and the region after her passing. He was very active in the community, becoming an MP for County Galway. It was at this time he built the Victorian walled gardens, to supply the castle with all necessary fruit and vegetables. It was left abandoned for several years, but it has recently been restored. In 1878, Mitchell began work on the Gothic church in the woodlands, close to the mausoleum where Margaret was laid to rest. Her remains were never moved to the vaults beneath the church, and to this day, she remains in the peaceful opening in the woods. Sadly, Mitchell's tragedy was not over yet, and heartbreak would strike again. In 1892, his daughter Geraldine was killed while out for a short carriage ride with her daughter, Elizabeth, and the baby's nurse. Her daughter and the nurse survived. This was probably the event that destroyed Mitchell's connection to the castle and started his steady decline. By this point, the estate must have seemed more of a curse than a blessing for him. He had never really recovered from the loss of his wife, and Carmore was not his only estate. He also owned a large property in London called Strathyden House. Maintaining two lavish and large properties was expensive, and he never recovered his finances after Margaret's death, and he was forced to sell Strathyden House. Later his family would move out of Carmore, and he would sell the estate to William Angus Drogo Montagu, the 9th Duke of Manchester, and his wife, Helena Zimmerman. After 36 years of his beloved Margaret passing, Mitchell Henry died at the age of 83, and he was placed in the little mausoleum, once again united with Margaret, forever residing on their estate. It is said he had only £700 in the bank at the time of his passing. To this day, his efforts are still very much present in Connemara, and his memory lives on. The love story had come to a bitter end, destroyed by an unexpected series of devastating events. Even though this was the end of the Henry family and the estate, it was most certainly not the end of Carmore Castle. The Duke and Duchess moved in with their 3 children and immediately started renovations to the castle and estate. Sadly, they removed much of Mitchell's Italian-inspired interiors, as well as the German stained glass windows in the staircase hall. They went so far as to rip out much of the Italian and Connemara marble. The locals saw this as a desecration of the memory of the much-loved Margaret Henry and her beloved castle. Helena's parents had hoped that settling down in Carmore would change her husband from a party playboy to a more responsible person, but that hope was short-lived. They threw lavish parties on the estate and had guests such as King Edward VII. The peace and tranquility of the estate were over. After her father's death in 1914, they left Carmore, and local stories claim that it was not due to his death, but that the Duke had lost the castle in a late-night gambling session. Once again, financial difficulties led to the estate being put up for sale. The estate caught the attention of a group of Belgian Benedictine nuns. They were forced to flee their convent in Ypres, Belgium, due to World War I, and they were in search of a new home where they could continue their religious life and educational work. Eventually, Carmore Castle found its true purpose when it was purchased by the Benedictine nuns in 1920. In 1922, the nuns opened an international girls' boarding school. The girls were a breath of fresh air in the otherwise quiet lives of the nuns. They brought laughter and youth both to the nuns and to the buildings, which came to life once again. The school closed in 2010, bringing back the quietness to the estate, as if a switch were turned off and all the activity ceased. Meanwhile, the nuns had been welcoming guests in the guest house and estate since the 1950s, and that flow of tourists had grown year by year, so they decided to change focus to hospitality, although they still carry out educational activities. The stunning beauty of the estate attracts thousands of visitors, and the romantic history in such a gorgeous location is said to inspire many spontaneous marriage proposals. It seems Mitchell and Margaret's love permeated the estate, as tangible as the lively fragrances in the air. Carlmore Abbey is much more than just the castle, with so much to explore, such as the walled gardens, walking trails, and the new buildings. Carlmore Abbey offers something for everyone. So come, explore its halls, roam its gardens, and immerse yourself in the magic of this timeless treasure that has withstood the test of time since Mitchell Henry first broke ground over 150 years ago. This is definitely one of the most beautiful estates in Ireland and well worth spending time in. You will not regret making the trip out there. I hope you enjoyed this journey through Carlmore Abbey. If you made it this far, please leave a comment and tell me what you thought of the estate. If you have time for another adventure, I have selected another video I think you will enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.